Good morning, welcome back to Footsteps of the Past, the story of Albert Clarke. Although we were happy with the first two episodes we did on Albert, we knew that eventually we might find more information on him, and we did. A few weeks ago now, I was at the grave of my two times great-grandparents, Frank and Matilda Clarke. Followers of this channel will, of course, know that Frank was Albert's brother. I often visit their graves and speak to them. On this one occasion, I said to them, or even asked, why is there no more Albert, or any descendants? A few days later, I was at a shop near where I work. While waiting for it to open, I decided to have a look on Ancestry. I found a new DNA link to a person that I'd not come across. I messaged her as the surnames on the tree were shared, and they were Clarke and Bridger. I sent this lady a message. I asked her where the name was fitting in with her that matched. To my amazement, she explained that she was the daughter of Stanley C. Clarke. Of course, we went into full investigation mode. We found that Stanley was one of Albert's 4 children. And most amazing of it all, she actually lives in the local area. Last year, I asked about a number of Albert's children on a local Facebook group, and a lady replied and referred to this person that I was inquiring about as being her auntie. But at the time, it didn't register with me as we didn't know how many children Albert had with his second wife. So here is the full updated story on Albert Clarke. Albert was born in 1869 to William and Mary Ann Clarke here in Steep. The family were listed as living in a church not far from where I'm sat at the moment. Within a year of Albert being born, the family moved into the Harrow, which is half a mile down in that direction. They ran the Harrow for a good 10 years or so. Albert probably had a normal childhood for the time, and eventually went to Steep School, which is to my right. Albert and his family attended Steep Church on what seems to be a regular basis. But it was one fateful early evening of Sunday, the 1st of August, 1880, when things were about to change for Albert and consequently the family as a whole. Albert, at the age of 10, was leaving the church here in Steep after the evening service along with his two brothers, Frank, 14, and George, who was 15. There were a few other boys from the choir coming out as well, but three of them to note: William Mellor, who was 14, and James Trix, who was 12, and a Frank Gale, who was 17. The boys left the church and walked down towards Harrow, which, as I've said, is about half a mile down the hill. Now, Albert was walking down, allegedly started throwing sticks and maybe some stones towards Will and his two friends. They asked Albert to stop, but after a short pause, he started throwing things again. Will, having had enough of Albert's messing about, bundled him into Mr. Stubbs' tops, which is more than likely on the right hand side if you get further down the hill. My guess is near the cricket ground. There, Will and his friends bundled Albert to the floor, sat on him and punched him in the eye. Will's friends said to him, that's enough, Will. They proceeded back to the road. At this point, Albert's brothers, Frank and George, ran off in different directions, probably heading home at the Harrow. Albert made his way back to the road and started throwing stones again, this time at Will Mellor, although none hit him. Walking towards the turn-off for the Harrow, Albert caught up with Will and pulled out his pocket knife. Now these were common things among young boys at that time, probably used for whittling sticks or eating fruit when out and about or playing, you know. According to the other boys who were there with Will, Albert said, "I'm going to cut your head off." The two boys fought over the knife, and near the Harrow during the scuffle, Albert with a back swing stabbed Will. Albert ran for home crying and ran into Lavinia Budd and her husband. He said that Will Mellor had hit him. It was during this moment that another boy, who apparently was with Albert, said that Albert had stabbed Will Mellor. Now, around about that time, a mason by the name of James Corner had left the Harrow and was making his way home to Petersfield. This is when he saw Trix and Gale supporting Will, who was staggering as if drunk. He saw that Will had a stab wound to his chest. Mr. and Mrs. Budd came to help, but sadly, Will died not long after. Someone went and got Will's father, who last saw Will around tea time before Will left the church. Albert Mellor did not know of any prior troubles or ill feeling between the boys. A short time after, Dr. Charles Ticehurst of Petersfield, who had been sent for, arrived. Upon his arrival, he found Will lying quite dead on the road just outside the harrow, on the grassy area along that road near there. A local police inspector, Henry Ransom, had also been sent for. He was in charge of the Petersfield Division of the Hampshire Constabulary, and by the time of his arrival, Will's body had been taken into a room adjoining the harrow. Albert Clarke was immediately apprehended, and the knife was eventually handed over. Albert had given it to his brother William. There was no blood on it, but it was produced at the inquiry. The coroner's inquiry, which was held at the Harrow, was to be delayed so a solicitor by the name of Mr. G.H. King of Portsea could be appointed for young Albert. This inquiry took place on the 7th of August 1880. The post-mortem by Dr. Ticehurst showed that Will had been stabbed between the 5th and 6th rib. The blade had pierced the liver and the right cavity of Will's heart. It was decided that Albert would attend Winchester Assizes, and Albert was bailed into the custody of his father, William Clarke. Bail cost 50 shillings, the equivalent of £7,807.54 today, and two sureties of 25 shillings each. So in total, the equivalent of around £15,615.08 in today's money. This took place in Winchester on the 16th of November 1880. The school headmaster and Mr. Ford was told. He said that although he thought Albert was intellectually backward, he still had an understanding of his actions and the consequences, but gave Albert a good character. Albert's lawyer argued that Albert was an inoffensive, well-behaved young boy who had just been attacked prior to the incident by Will. The threats by Albert, well, they were just rag and plaster. The knifing was accidental. It happened due to the struggle over the knife. Albert was acquitted to go free, but the judge commended him to never use a knife again. He promised not to do so. Albert eventually returned to school here in the state, but due to the ill feeling locally towards the family, they had to move out of the Harrow, just a short way down the lane past Narrow to an area called Kettle's Brook. So in looking at this, it was both of them struggling over the knife. Either one of them could have fallen victim excuse me, to the fatal blow. It is very easily been Albert lying dead. Maybe the argument convinced the judge to see it in this way. Not much is known of Albert after he left school, except that we know he moved to London, where he worked as a stable boy in an area called Pembridge Villas, a name that would become synonymous later. Pembridge Villas is near Portobello Road and Market, and still stands today. Albert, while in London, met and married a girl called Agnes. She was a blacksmith's daughter. In 1901, they were listed as living in Kensington. Sadly, though, this marriage did not last. They were divorced in 1918 after around 24 years of marriage. The probable reasons as to why will be revealed later. Albert purchased some land in 1904, along with his brother Frank. On this land, 2 cottages were built, 1 and 2 Pembridge Villas. Maybe this name had happier memories for Albert. Albert, a short while later, was working at the Dolphin Hotel as a stable master and job master. The hotel no longer exists. I believe it was demolished in the 1960s, when it was down the bottom of the High Street in Petersfield, near where the monument is. Whilst working there at the Dolphin Hotel, he trained a racehorse, the General, which had won the Hamilton Hunt steeplechase the year before in 1909. Yes, there was horse racing on the South Downs, not too far from here. Albert also took over the running of the stables at the Railway Hotel and was there also as a job master. While working at the Railway Hotel in 1906, Albert was witness to the events of the mad sailor in Petersfield, where a lady by the name of Margaret Treble was shot and fatally wounded. This happened near the station. Albert looked around the gate after hearing the commotion and found himself having the gun pointed at him. Albert backed out of view. After the sailor had left the area, Albert ushered the children who were nearby into the safety of the stable yard, should the sailor return. Albert, with a colleague, carried the body of Mrs. Treble into the stable yard. Albert was called as a coroner's witness for the case. Also, during this time, Albert was letting out his property in Steve and had to take the tenant to court for damages done to the property. Albert was also involved in a slanderous case towards him, and the case was settled out of court. Albert set himself up as a taxi driver with around 32 horses and most probably Hanson carriages. Later on, these were replaced by cars. It was probably around this time that Albert met Annie Fowler Ross, whose family had moved from Wolverhampton and were in the service of a Mrs. Fitton. We have found that some of the Ross family looks most likely to be Annie's brothers or sisters, actually worked with Albert at the garage, worked in his employ. Albert technically was still married, but going by dates, we believe Albert got Annie pregnant. She was 20, he was 50. This most likely led to his divorce and, quite likely, ordered by Annie Ross's parents to marry her. Albert and Annie set up a home opposite the Railway Hotel in a house called Homedale. It no longer exists. It's now being redeveloped. I have done a few AI pictures and representations of what a few of the buildings could have looked like, or know what they've looked like, and also given them a feel of what it was like back then. They had 4 children: Stanley, Annie Kathleen, although in some places listed as Kathleen Annie, Albert Henry, and Olive Joan. But sadly, his happiness was not to last. Albert in early 1924 was taken ill and spent the last few weeks in pain and in bed. Albert died on the 21st of April 1924. His brother Frank was with him when he passed. Albert died of carcinoma of the bladder cancer, and heart failure. Albert was buried a couple of days later in Petersfield Cemetery. We do know the rough location of the grave, however, there is no grave marker of any sort. So, this brings Albert's full story to a close. Thank you for watching, and remember, no one knows where their history may take them. Bye for now.